Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to talk about fats. There are so many discussions that are going around these days about how much fat to include or should we include fats in our diet or not. There are people who are going in for fat-free meals. And is that really a good idea, and do we really need to go that far? Our body needs fats for proper functioning, especially our brain needs fats for proper functioning. And we don't need a lot of fats in our diet. Maybe 5 to 10% of your entire diet in a day should comprise of fats, but they need to be healthy fats and they must be consumed in the proper way. If you're eating deep fried foods, of course that's fat, but that's not really going to help us in any way. The healthiest form of fats that we can include in our diet is all forms of nuts and seeds and avocados. Avocados are great, you can have them once they are fully ripe. We should never consume anything that's unripe. So ripe avocados, you can have them in your salads, you can have them as a smoothie, you can make desserts out of them. There are so many recipes online these days. Just take a look and include more avocados in your diet. Next is nuts and seeds. You can include all different kinds of nuts and seeds in your diet. And they are quite heavy on the digestive system, and I'm going to explain you why. And that is why it is very important that we prepare them properly before we start consuming them. So there are three important things I want to cover in today's video. First one is that all nuts and seeds have anti-nutrients in them, which hamper our digestion. So if you are consuming nuts and seeds as it is, then the digestion process does not take place properly, and all your nutrients from the food do not get absorbed. In fact, if you're eating anything else with the nuts and seeds, then the digestion of that food item will also get hampered. So it is very important that we reduce or get rid of these anti-nutrients from all nuts and seeds that we are consuming. And the simplest way to go about it is just simply by soaking them. So whatever nuts and seeds you're consuming, make sure that you soak them for at least 4 to 8 hours. This will depend on the size of the nut that you're consuming. So for example, seeds like sesame seeds or watermelon seeds, they're smaller in size, and soaking them for about 4 hours would be more than enough. But looking at nuts that are larger in size like walnuts or almonds would need a longer soaking time. Next, what you can do is, after soaking them, you can dry them in shade indoors, and after that you dry them in the sun. This will give them a nice crunchy texture, and it really depends on what kind of taste you're looking for and what texture you're looking for. You can also do this process in bulk. So take 1 kg pack of almonds, you soak it for 6 to 7 hours, and then you shade dry it indoors, and then you sun dry it for a few hours in nice sunlight, and they will become nice and crunchy. And now you can store this in the refrigerator for about 2 months as well. So every day you don't need to worry about soaking and drying. But I don't mind the texture of soaked nuts, so I usually just soak a handful of nuts every night, and then I can consume them next day. The third step you can do is you can ferment your nuts and seeds, and that's by you first soak them, make a milk out of it, and then you turn them into a yogurt. There are a lot of recipes online that are available, and you can see how to make yogurts out of different nuts and seeds. And if you want, you can also check on my Instagram profile. I have a section called probiotics where I keep adding recipes for different kinds of probiotics, which also includes yogurts. Once the nuts or seeds are soaked, there are so many different ways to include them in your diet. You can make a salad dressing out of them, or you can just chop them and add them to your salads. You can also make milk with them and make milkshakes with it. And another option is to have nut or seed butters. There are a lot of them available in the market as well, so you can buy ready-made ones or you can make them yourself. The only thing I'll mention here is that if you're buying ready-made butters, then try to find something that's been made from activated nuts. That's the term they'll use. Activated just simply means that they soaked the nut and then dried it and then turned it into a butter, and that's what we want. Otherwise, you can just make them at home. It's not that tough. Again, soak your nuts, dry them, and just grind them in the blender, and it will turn into a nice butter. Second thing I would like to talk about today is that all the nuts and seeds, like we mentioned, are high in fats. And fats are made up of fatty acids. Fatty acids are of 3 kinds: saturated fatty acids, and monounsaturated fatty acids, and polyunsaturated fatty acids. where the saturated ones are the most stable kinds of fats, and polyunsaturated ones are the most unstable form of fats. And the ones that are monounsaturated are somewhere in between the two, and it really depends on the condition they are in. They can be slightly unstable. So what this means, basically the nuts and seeds that are unstable are very sensitive to oxygen, their exposure to oxygen, light or heat. And the ones that are stable, they are not very sensitive, and their chemical composition does not change when they are exposed to heat or light or oxygen. So what that means for us is that when we are including them in our diet, and if we cook the unsaturated, the polyunsaturated fats, then their chemical composition changes, and then they can become toxic for our body. So firstly, like I mentioned, the best way to consume any form of fats is in the raw form, and you must soak and dry them or ferment them and consume them. But if say you are working with a recipe and you really want to include cooked nuts and seeds in your diet, then at least make sure that you're going for the ones that are saturated or monounsaturated, or at least high in these kinds of fats. So here is a list of different kinds of nuts and seeds that you can consume on a regular basis. And I've also divided them as saturated, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. So the ones that are high in monounsaturated and saturated fatty acids, those are the ones you can cook occasionally whenever a recipe really requires, and make sure that you cook them at low temperatures. Another way to prepare them is by dehydrating them at a very low temperature. So if you're keeping temperatures under 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius, that's absolutely fine. Third thing I want to talk about today is essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are those fatty acids that our body cannot produce by itself, and we must include them in our diet. And these are of two kinds, omega-3 and omega-6. These days, the diets that we are taking includes a lot of refined oils that we are buying off the supermarkets, and processed refined oils, and also a lot of animal fat, which is not grass-fed. They've been fed on corn or soya. So this kind of a diet is very rich in omega-6 fatty acids, and this lifestyle that we're living today has really skewed the proportions of omega-3 and omega-6. And that's why a lot of the times your doctors would recommend you to take omega-3 supplements. What I would suggest is that we should include more omega-3 fatty acids in our diet naturally through our food. And seeds like hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, and even walnuts, they are all very rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So try to include a lot of these in your diet on a regular basis, and make sure to follow the tips that I've given to prepare your nuts and seeds properly before you consume them. Now that we know that fats or nuts and seeds can be classified as saturated or unsaturated, we should use this information while buying and storing nuts and seeds as well. So especially when you are buying something that falls under the unstable category, then make sure that you only buy enough, that you only buy the quantity that you will be able to consume in the next 2 to 3 months, and you're not buying enough for like more than that, and so they don't go rancid. Secondly, look at the source where you're buying from. Buy from a trusted source, and maybe where you know that the store is not going to sell you stuff that is quite old or 6 to 8 months old and it's just been lying around in the shelf. Third thing is, especially with pine nuts and walnuts, because they are both very unstable, try to buy them with the shells, because their shell will protect them from the exposure to heat or light, and they will stay fresh longer. And especially with hemp seeds, they are also very unstable. So whenever you're buying hemp seeds, make sure you buy them in nitrogen packaging. Now, once you've got these, you got them home, make sure you store them properly in good containers, preferably something that is opaque, or just keep them in a cool and dark place. You can also refrigerate them. A few more tips that I'd like to share today is that if you've had some nuts and seeds lying around in the house for a long time, then please test them and just check that they are okay to eat. If you eat them, they should have a slightly sweetish taste, not a bitter taste. If you sense any kind of bitterness in the taste, then that means they've gone rancid, and please just discard them. Don't eat them because they can be toxic to the body. And one question that I get asked very frequently is how much to consume. Because nuts and seeds are high in fats, they are a little heavy on our digestive system, and we should not consume a lot of them. And like I mentioned, we only need about 5 to 10% of our total diet to be coming from fats. And so a handful of nuts and seeds is more than enough to be had on a daily basis. Yes, a growing child or someone at the older age who's losing a lot of weight rapidly, or pregnant ladies, they might need a little more, so you can go a little higher, but just make sure that you are preparing them properly, soaking the nuts and seeds and consuming them. And what I prefer in my routine is that out of the 7 days in the week, once or twice I include avocados in my salads during the day, like have one full avocado in a day, that's fine. And once or twice a week I have coconut, so you can use coconut, you can have you can make coconut yogurt, you can blend them to form nice salad dressings, you can even just add shredded coconut on your salads, or even any cooked meals that you are eating. Once you've prepared the dishes, you can just top it up with some shredded coconut. And the rest, 3 to 4 days in the week, I have about handful of nuts or seeds in different combinations every day. Just to give a quick recap of this video, first I talked about anti-nutrient factors in nuts and seeds and why is it important to soak them and prepare them properly before consuming them. Second, we talked about the fact that fats can be stable or unstable, and that's why we should be careful while selecting which ones we are eating raw and which ones we are cooking. And this also helps us decide when we are buying nuts and seeds, we need to be a bit more careful, especially with the ones that are unstable, and just look at their date of packaging and how and what kind of packaging they are packed in. Third, we talked about essential fatty acids, and that we should try and include a lot more omega-3 fatty acids in our diet with the help of hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds and walnuts. So I hope you found this video helpful, and now you can make more informed decision while consuming the nuts and seeds on how to consume them, which ones to be cooked, which ones should not be cooked, and ideally have them all raw.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want more tips or healthy recipes, follow me on Instagram and do subscribe to my YouTube channel.